Okay, so the first step in learning how to read guitar tab or guitar tablature is that we need to understand that when we're reading it, we're going to read left to right like we do with a book, okay, with our thick string being on the bottom of the page and the thin string being on the top of the page. So it would be somewhat similar to looking at the guitar in front of you like this, with the thick string on the bottom and the thin string being on the top. So this is the first step here. All right, and now we move on to the second step, which is actually looking at the guitar tab staff. And what I want you to notice about this is that this staff, I'm going to zoom in here, this staff has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. Where a traditional staff, a traditional music staff where you're learning how to read notes, we would only have 5 lines. But in this case, we have 6 because those 6 lines are representing the 6 guitar strings. And as I previously stated, your 6th string would be on the bottom. So this line right here would be the 6th string, which is the thick string. And this line up here would be the 1st string, which would be the thin string. Okay, so you're basically just going to read from left to right, okay, and the 1st string is up on top and the 6th string is on the bottom. So the next thing you'll notice when you're reading tab is that there are numbers on the notation staff. So what's awesome about this is it's quite easy to understand. Let's say, for instance, I wrote a 3 on, which would be the 5th string. If you look at it, this right here would be the 5th string, okay? So I am putting a 3 on that 5th string. That 3 means 3rd fret, okay? The numbers that you read tell you what fret to play. They do not tell you what fingers to use. They tell you what fret to play, okay? So let's say you were playing something like, let's say, for instance, we wanted to play Can't Get No Satisfaction. We're going to play Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, okay? And it would go 2, 2. That's how it begins. So the first thing you do is you go to your 5th string and you play the 2nd fret, only the 2nd fret, 1 string, twice. So you're going to play 2, 2. Now again, it's not telling you what fingers to use. It's not telling you what rhythm to use. You're not going to see quarter notes and half notes and those sorts of things. You've got to be able to listen to the song and make sense of what you're seeing on the page. So the next thing we'd have then would be 2, 4, 5. So you'd play 2, 2, 2, 4, 5. Okay, and just imagine Satisfaction there. So 2, 2, 2, 4, 5. Okay? And then it's going to go 5, 5, 4, 4. So you're going to go 2, 2, 2, 4, 5, 5, 5, 4, 4, and then you'd start all over again. Okay? So this is just an example of how you could read, excuse me a second, how you could read tablature. Let me go back up here. There we go. So no matter what you see written, if you see a 0, that means to play that 6th string open. So 0 equals open. Okay? So if I do this, if I write 0, 0, 0, 0, I'm telling you to play the 6th string open 4 times. Okay? Let's say I did this. I played 0, 3, 5, 0, 3, 6, 5, 0, 3, 5. Whoop, sorry about that last one there. And then 3, 0. Now you'll notice I've got some space in between these. Okay, so we're not worried about these right now. So we've got this thing right here, this thing right here, this here, and this here. There's space in between each one of those, which kind of tries to tell you what the phrasing would be. So you'd play these together first, and then you'd play these, and then you'd play these. Now this would be like an easy version of Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water. That's kind of what this is like an easy version that I learned how to play when I was a kid. So you'd play 0, 3, 5, 0, 3, 6, 5, 0, 3, 5, 3, 0. Okay? Now, again, it's just an easy version, but so you can kind of see how the tab works. Okay? So the other thing that you'll see is you will see sometimes that tab will have more than one note stacked on top of each other. So let's say you saw something like this. 0, 2, 2, 2, 0. Okay? What this is actually making is a chord. Whenever you see things stacked on top of each other, it means you're going to play them all at the same time. You have to ask yourself, what chord do you know that would have 3 notes on the 2nd fret, on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings, and then you'd play the 1st string and the 5th string open? And the answer would be, do you know it? The A chord. What you're looking at right there is what the A chord would look like in tablature. Now imagine this. What would E minor look like? E minor would look like this. 0, 2, 2, 0, 0, 0. It'd be stacked on top of each other, and you'd play them all at the same time. So this one right here would be an E minor chord. Okay? So that's how you read tablature. Now, there are other little things that we use to kind of explain different techniques that we sometimes use. Let me show you this. Let's say, for instance, you wanted to go from 3 to 5 on the 5th string, but you wanted to do what we call a hammer-on. Okay? Then what we would do is put this on there, and that means that you're going to hammer from 5 to 3. Let's say you wanted to go from 3 to 5. Let's say you wanted to go from 5 to 3. And then you see that little line on top there. That means to do a pull-off. Okay? Let's say you wanted to go from 3 to 5, but you wanted to do a slide. Then again, you're going to see something that looks like this, a little line in between, which means you're sliding from 3 to 5. Okay? There's just a lot of different kinds of notation that we can deal with, but this is the beginning stages of how we read tablature. And the most important thing is you're either reading, you're either reading single notes like this, you're reading chords like these, and then there'll be all sorts of different little symbols and things that you'll learn how to do stuff with. For instance, you know, if I did this and I wrote this next to it, that means to bend. Okay, if I wrote this next to it, that means vibrato. Okay, if I wrote something like this, let's say I wrote 9 on the 1st string, and I wrote a bend, okay, but I wrote something like this. That means only bend up a half step, where this one over here generally means you're bending up a whole step, which is what we usually do with bends, is bend them up 2 frets. Now, if I'm getting ahead of you in terms of some of the things you know, like bending and vibrato, I apologize, I don't want to confuse you, but just understand that there is a lot of different stuff involved in the smaller techniques of learning how to read tablature. But these things right here are less important than learning how to read chords and learning how to read single notes. Those are the 2 most important things that you can learn how to do, right? So single notes, you've got whatever you want, something like this. There we go. 3, 6, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, right? That would be single notes that we would be reading. And I could put bar lines around it or whatever. If I do something like this, that means a chord, which in this case we're looking at a D chord. So that's the most important part that I want you to learn.